everybody, and welcome to AM Chicago. I'm Oprah Winfrey. How many of you overused your credit cards this holiday season? Well, for my first two guests, credit card abuse is a fact of life all year long. These 20 credit cards led to a $20,000 debt for Carol. At one time, she had 48 cards and a debt as large as $35,000. These 14 cards led to a $15,000 debt for Laura Lee. Her debt has also been as high as $35,000. Please welcome Carol and Laura Lee to AM Chicago. Put them down there. Help is on the way for credit card abusers. The City of Chicago Department of Consumer Affairs funds a credit counseling center, and its director, Irwin has now joined us to help us get out of debt, out of debt, out of debt. When I said this during the commercial break, somebody over here said, what's he going to do, pay our bills?
No.
No, you're not going to. Well, how do we do it? Is there a way to do it?
Yes. I mean, some people do it, some people don't. Basically, you need a budget. That is the number one thing.
Let me ask you this. We've all heard this budget stuff because everybody's moaning.
Budget?
What if right now you're like Carol or Laura Lee and you see yourself sunk in the hole there, $15,000, and you don't kind of have it laying around the house to give to Marshall Fields?
Right.
So how do you begin to explain to them that I'm so far in the hole right here now, I need to kind of slowly crawl my way out of here?
Well, what they would do is come to our office, or they don't have to come to our office, they could do it at home. What they do is they have a master plan, a budget, first of all. Find out what their income is, what their living expenses are, and what their credit obligations are. And the reason people come to us is because they can't meet their credit obligations. And what they need to do, or we could do it for them, is to negotiate a repayment plan with creditors to reduce the monthly payments.
Oh,
which
you
is
can
possible.
do that?
Absolutely.
You can do that?
Yes, they want their money.
Right.
They
so
don't want you
what,
going bankrupt.
That's
they
right.
want their money.
What about, I've heard about consolidation loans. Is that a good idea?
The problem with that, it depends, because if you've lost control of your budget and you get a consolidation loan, often what will be the case is you pay your debts and you'll owe the loan, and then you go charge up your charger cards again.
That's right, because you only have one bill then, and you've kind of solved that problem. You're nodding, Carol. Have you ever done that?
Yes.
There's not much Carol hadn't done here today. So once you got that consolidation loan, you got a loan for how much?
Ooh, let's see, $5,000.
$5,000, went and paid off all those bills, only have one month.
Well, most of them.
Most of those bills, one monthly payment, and then you went out and charged some more.
That's true.
So you have the $5,000 bill, the loan,
Plus.
and the rest of the... Don't you get headaches?
I have had a few sleepless nights.
A few sleepless nights. I can understand it, and this whole row here is nodding. Why? Do you know what they're talking? Do you know what they're talking about here? You know what? Yes.
Yeah, I do. I have to pay my bills, and when they're delinquent, I get very nervous about it.
You do.
Uh-huh.
So you get nervous, but what does that mean? You just don't sleep.
Right.
Because where does the money come from to do it? What do you do when you positively just don't have the money?
You call your creditors. You communicate with them. They're human beings, and you talk to them, and you tell them what the situation is.
Now somebody back here said what? Who said that? Who said that? Did you say that? Why? Why? You said for real?
Well, I just said for real because sometimes you'll get a real snob on the phone, and they won't talk to you like you're a real person, so you say forget it and just hang up the phone.
That's because
Have a sleepless night.
why are they like that? I think they're sort of conditioned to be hard-nosed. Those.
Some are.
Yeah.
Some are, some aren't. And sometimes you can call back and get another creditor, someone who's not as nasty. Also, that's where our service comes in, and other services like ours, where we have a reputation with the credit community. We've been responsible for the repayment of over $1.5 million in debt, and they like us. Now, that doesn't, okay, but what about you, right? That's what you want to know. You call up, you tell them what the situation is, and you say, this is what I've got to pay you.
Who do we call specifically? Because there are people out there saying, who you call the...
You call the credit department.
The credit department of that store or
Yes.
that... Okay.
Yes,
And
you know who, I mean, if you've been receiving calls, you've got messages as to who to call back. So there's no problem as to who to call. But, the good thing is, you want to call them before they call you. If you know you're going to have a problem, you contact them and you tell them what's the story, and you tell them what you're able to pay, and they will generally go along with it.
See, but the problem is now, a lot of people don't do that.
But I cut them into little pieces.
You did. All right, I think that's a good idea. How many people here right now are willing to take your credit cards and cut them into little pieces? You are. Take them out of your pockets right now. I have some scissors behind you. If you look right behind you there. Okay. We're going to cut them up. We're going to cut them. I have some scissors. Now, you tell me this. You tell me that, do you think that cutting is the answer? You say, I'm asking you, do you think cutting's the answer?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Right.
Why?
Sometimes it's good. Sometimes they call it plastic surgery, or if you want a nice little term.
Plastic surgery.
Right. Sometimes it's good. If you don't go back to the store and ask for it again, you can go back. That's
You
the
go
problem.
back,
I did the same thing. I cut up my credit cards. I have cut them up, locked them up in my safe deposit box, did basically everything, and I always end up going back to the store, going to the credit department and getting a temporary card.
You do.
Yeah.
Doesn't it help just a little bit not to have it in your hand?
It can, yes. And you can leave it at home. That's another technique.
Well,
But,
leaving it at home doesn't count, because I will go home and get it.
okay, but you can...
And the wonderful thing at Neiman Marcus, you don't need the card.
Okay, but the important thing is to internalize it. That's the important thing. You can go through all the rituals in the world. You can throw your credit cards in a fire. That's not going to do it. You've got to internalize it, and you've got to start controlling your budget. You've got to do a budget and start knowing where your money is going.
Laura, Christmas, you charged?
Yes, I charge.
Is that the answer then? Because yeah, I've been talking to my accountant about. I think that perhaps for me, I think everybody maybe has to work out their own solution. But to only pay if you don't have the cash in your pocket or not in your bank account at the time, then don't do it. Or I know that my producer does this. Debbie does this. Whenever she charges, she writes a check for it right then, so that when that account comes in, she mails it out, which is a good system. Good, Debs.
You can add it up per month and do it. I mean, otherwise your check, the number of checks, you get charged 10 cents a check. That can get a little expensive. But for Christmas...
10 cents is nothing compared to the interest rate you're getting.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's true. All right, is there an order in which we should pay our bills? If you're like Carol and you have 48 of them coming in. But what gets paid first? What should get paid first? Who will be the most understanding about late payments?
Who will understand the most?
Yeah.
Your unsecured debtors, the ones who cannot take back the car or the house.
Okay.
They have to understand.
Okay.
Because they can't take back that meal you ate, last week.
Okay.
So,
okay.
And then, see, what we do when we do a budget is you list your living expenses, first of all, what it takes to live. And then you list your credit obligations and find out what your obligations are right now, what your payments are. Yes?
Do most people know what it takes to live? Do you all know? Do you have any idea, or do you just sort of spend? Okay, good. Do most people know?
Some do, some don't.
Some do, some don't. Okay.
And but the important is to see where it's going, because if you don't see where it's going, then you live out of a pocket budget and you spend and spend till it's gone, and then you borrow.
And then you're out. You're just out of money. I know people who do that.
And as I was saying, you find out what your obligations are, your credit obligations, and generally, if you don't have enough to pay all your credit obligations, you look at your living expenses, see where you can cut down, see what your standard of living is. Do you have to have the highest price champagne? Do you have to have the best perfume? Do you need all that entertainment? Whatever.
Everybody's nodding. Yeah.
Well,
yes,
it's a decision. It's your choice, but we provide you options.
Yeah.
And then once you've cut down as much as you can afford to live by, we're not going to give you an unrealistic living situation, then you contact your creditors, or we can do it for you, and arrange reduced monthly payments and say, I have cut to the bone, this is what I can do, and make your agreement and stick to the agreement.
Now, is there a chance?
We're a free service.
Okay, what do you want to know?
What do you get out of this?
We are a free service. We're a city. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Free, what a great price! We'll be back in just a moment. We're going to cut up credit cards when we return in a moment on AM Chicago. Back in a moment. Coming soon, how much is a human organ worth? setting up a lot of credit cards from stores that are very supportive of this show, and it certainly doesn't mean that we have anything against those stores at all, but for people who have problems, isn't it better that they cut up the cards and pay only when they can, because nobody even wants people having credit at their stores if they can't pay the bills, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, again, it goes back to the budget. There's nothing wrong with charging, as long as you can control it. And as long as you designate, for instance, with your Christmas budget, if you designated a certain amount to spend on a person, and stick to that.
You wanted to say something. For more information about how we can get ourselves out of debt, if you found yourself so much in debt and you can't, you need to contact you, right?
Right, at 744-6426.
Now, you were saying, Carol, you're going to go see them?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Right.
Yay, Carol! It's the beginning. And what do you want to happen there, Carol? You want to happen?
I want to be on a budget.
Be on a budget.
I want to be on a budget.
Carol's going to get help. Thank you so very much. We'll be back in just a moment. Back in a moment. Should be interesting. See you tomorrow. Thank you all. Thank you.